Good evening. I'm speaking with Malinda Seneviratne, a freelance journalist and the editor of Spectrum monthly magazine in English. Malinda, very warm welcome to the program.
Thank you.
You made a joke referring to the status as freelance, saying that it was actually free, that you don't get paid for your work. But you have an interesting history. You're not just a journalist, you were also election observer in the United States. So maybe that's a good a place as any to start my line of questioning, which is that in the course of your election monitoring, you wrote some very, very interesting essays that have now been subsequently published. And you made some very interesting observations about the nature of democracy in that country, not just in relation to the election that you were observing, but about the tradition of democracy in the United States, which is very different to what some of us would believe democracy is. Now, would you care to explain?
Well, in America, you don't get in the United States presidential elections. Actually, it's a selection. They have their own system, but they make it out as though it's flawless and so on. But the 2000 election was it was a big mess. There was voters not being allowed to vote.
Chads and
it was, and the whole computer voting system. There were a lot of problems with that. It's as bad as here, I thought, and it was a fun exercise for me. And there were a lot of people from Congo, from Haiti, and places like that, and so we got a chance to tell the minders. To mind the minders. They are the people who are making the definitions. They are the people who are telling us to be good. But no, these guys are bad, really bad. We are much better, I think. And so to see that at first hand, but we are not going to make any impact on. We are not going to make any impact on the result of that election. But to see various elements of that whole process and question that and talk about it was personally a very fulfilling thing for me.
And you wrote a series of, it's a quite long collection of essays, Love Notes to Democracy, but in it, it's quite clear that you're not just talking about the election, Malinda, you're talking about the systemic nature, and that's what I wanted to get at. You suggested that, for example, America's democracy within and its promotion of democracy outside its borders is very much dependent upon American interests. That will ally itself with any nature of regime, really, so long as American interests are furthered.
Yes, that's a line from Noam Chomsky's book, What Uncle Sam Really Wants, and he talks about American foreign policy. They don't care whether it's a military junta, it's a dictatorship, whether it is a monarchy or a formal democracy, anything. It doesn't matter as long as their interests are served. But they will make the right noises, they will make the right statements, and pretend that they are doing this for the good of the world, which is what politicians do. You can't blame the United States of America for looking after its self-interest, but let's not have all that garbage. We are not fools. And yes, I looked at much more than the election. Those essays were written during a period of about 10 days.
Right.
Not published, actually.
You're a prolific writer, isn't it? I mean, there's about 45 pages worth of stuff. I mean, how do you find the time to write as well as, just in general? I mean, two volumes of essays. You've been writing for years, decades even. I mean, where do you find the time to juggle the work and the writing, or is it one
I'm
and the same
actually a very lazy person. Right?
It doesn't show by the content that you
I write
produce.
fast.
Right.
Some of this stuff, I think it's because for a long time I have read a lot of things.
So does it come naturally? You find, I mean, would you identify yourself as a writer then?
I want to be undefined for as long as possible, but it's like this, when I started writing for The Island, I wrote a lot, and it was all written on Fridays and Saturdays. And being a journalist with deadlines, you just have to produce. And
there's a difference between a hack and a journalist. Now, you weren't just producing, this was not checkbook journalism. This was,
I was writing political comments, I was writing feature articles where there was a lot of reflection. Who knows? In Sinhala we say Sansara Purudha, God knows. But usually everyone is good at something. I think I'm good at writing. That is the only thing I'm good at. So I do that. So it is like telling someone who drives a van, you're a great driver. How do you drive?
it comes. You feel that you have this inside you. I mean, you've studied the Satipatthana Sutra in 2001, which is something I'll come back to. But have you always felt that you had something to say through your writing? Is that what compels you to write?
Well, what compels me to write is I'm a beneficiary of free education. I feel that these debts will never be paid. I owe this society something, and I try to contribute in whatever way possible, and I think I'm best at writing, so I will write. If I see something wrong which I think affects the majority of the people, then I will write about it. I think people...
so are you driven to look at social justice as well?
Yes.
Any particular issue that...
social justice is... love and social justice are the only things that have concerned me in my life now. I think that social justice is actually a subset of love. But yes, so issues of social justice. Justice is a, your sense of justice might be different from mine, but I stand by what I believe. And if I'm proved wrong, if there's someone offers a compelling argument, I think I'm humble enough to accept that, and I state my biases. For example, a lot of people write as if they've fallen from the sky. They are identityless and they are like, we are human beings, that kind of thing. I say I'm a Sinhala Buddhist and I have that interest. So I will, frame my arguments within that. But that does not mean that I'm not a Sri Lankan, that I'm not a human being, that I don't see human things.
Do you, I mean, in your writing, which is prose as well as verse, these issues of identity, these issues of maybe not belonging, but a sense of place, location, context, is it difficult to grapple with?
No, it is.
I mean, I guess the question also is, as a writer, in the context that you're in, is it any more difficult, or is it?
No, it is. It is something we should take into account where we are, historically, geographically,
Absolutely.
culturally, and so on. Because if we don't have roots, we can't grow.
Yeah.
Right?
And what do you feel are your roots, or the tradition that you draw upon?
My tradition is Sinhala Buddhist. That is what I draw from most. Does not mean that I don't draw from other sources. But this is definitely a very strong strain in this whole thing that is me. And I think that a sense of belonging locates us, and it gives context to what we say. Otherwise, we are just saying things which are it's nice to be
Absolutely. I mean, the transition from prose to verse and from verse to prose, it's not an easy one. I mean, there are few writers who can manage it with as much aplomb as you do.
No. There is no transition.
Right.
Prose you write. I write to newspapers. I write 2 articles.
But you do both very well. How is that?
Thank you.
Yeah.
But it's like this. I don't write verse for the sake of writing like prose. I have to produce. Right. That is my.
So the verse is what you want to produce, is it?
I want to produce both, but I'm inspired to write verse for in certain contexts. I'm writing a poem about something. For example, when I was at the Nation, we used to do this double spread feature, and I would tell the layout guys, once you placed your pictures, leave some room for me to write a poem, just to decorate that page. So they would give me a call and say, okay, Malinda, hurry. Then I would go, whether it is 50 lines or 10 lines, I will sit and I will write.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in terms of writing, though, and we've had Tracy Holzinger as well in terms of English theatre. But in the English literary tradition, you've said that we're still not up there with the Sinhala greats. Even to take a look at Shyam Selvadurai, you mentioned Ramesh Gunasekar, you say that there's something still maybe deficient, lacking. Why and how can we improve upon that?
Not that those books are not good, not that
those
I
understand, yes.
But I don't know about Tamil, but my sense is that Tamil is also better than our Sri Lankan English writing. I have read the Sinhala, contemporary Sinhala literature. For me, is far more superior.
Why? I mean,
in terms of style, language, content, the whole thing about literature. What does literature? It's about exploration. It's about looking at the human condition, being able to pick out the salient points.